watching at home. Their kids are watching.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everybody. That was a little bit of a zoomed in intro, but hopefully everybody found it as humorous as the thought in my head was. So anyway, I see Gordon Muir likes it. So anyway, yeah, it's been a day. It's only going to be me tonight. Tanya has been battling a virus of epic proportions for the last week, which is why she's been pretty much completely MIA except for last Sunday. And we were doing Vincent's birthday today, so she had used up basically all of her voice at the house today when we had a little birthday party for Vincent. So she will be possibly in chat. She may be in chat in terms of moderating. So when Mama Bear's in chat, you know, you have to be extra careful. So there you go. But it's great to be back, everybody. And hopefully everybody had a happy Easter, happy Orthodox Easter to all the folks that are celebrating. And it's interesting times, to be sure, but there is always something to look forward to. So lots of well wishes for Tanya. Thank you very much, everybody, for that. And I'm hoping so too, because I've been sleeping on the couch to try to not get sick. so far that has worked very, very well. And because if I get sick, then there's no show at all. So that's the problem. Anyway, so thanks everybody for joining us on a Sunday night of politics here in the true North. That's for sure. Before we get to anything, please no selling, soliciting, or spamming, and respect each other and the channel. Our moderators are in tonight. Let me check to see who we have right now. Looks like we have Randy from Northern Perspective.
Randy! Have you been hanging out with Randy?
As well as Cujo. So we'll see if anybody else pops in as we continue. Hopefully we will see William. Hopefully we'll see Dawn and Jester and the rest of the folks coming in. But it's going to be an interesting show. If folks haven't been following Abacus, they put out a fascinating post, and we're going to get into that. And it's I won't spoil it. But it is very, very interesting, the conclusions that they come up with. We also have a Conservative MP that decided to go on CBC to talk to Rosemary Barton. Yeah, that was interesting. And he did very, very well. So shout out to Shuv Majumdar, who is a MP in the fine city of Calgary, Alberta. We had the pleasure of meeting him at the convention, and he is down to earth. He's a great representative for the folks there, and he did a phenomenal job on CBC with Rosemary Barton, as we're about to see. And thank you everybody for wishing Vincent a happy birthday. Please do not forget to give him the present, or give us the present of a like for this stream. That's all we're asking folks to do as they're coming in. Please ring that doorbell, hit that button, and make sure you hit the like button on the stream. It gives us YouTube points that allows YouTube to know that, hey, this stream is actually worth watching. And because they are terrible at notifying people that our stream is actually up, it will increase the likelihood that they will put that out there for folks to see. So that would be fantastic if folks could hit that like button on the way in. We're at around 2,000 people so far and about 600 likes. So that would mean the world to us if you did that. It's been a week. We obviously had the left field floor crosser at this point. And I want to give a shout out to Mario as well, Mario for the North. He put out a great short, as he always does, just about the floor crossing in general. And he's saying the same thing as we are. And I think I hope a lot of people are, in that, you know what, bring them on. However many of you cowards feel that you need to cross the floor and sell your soul and completely turn your back on your voters, Conservative Nation needs to know. We need to know, because we need to know how many real conservatives are still left. So let's just get it all out in the open. And your voters can actually learn the truth. Who is an actual true patriot, true conservative, and who is not. And I respect the MPs in the other parties that have chosen to, well, let's just say, disincline to acquiesce to the Liberals' request, for those of you who have watched the Pirates of the Caribbean, to their attempts to lure people across the floor. Whether it's the Bloc or the NDP, I don't agree with their policies. I definitely don't agree with their colored cards in convention. But what I can respect is the fact that they can say, you know what? I'm fine where I am. This is where the voters put me, and I'm not moving. So let's just get it all out in the open. Like, if it's two more, if it's no more, great. Then these people that may be thinking about moving over actually, realize, oh, maybe I should actually respect my voters and stick with the party that they voted me in for. So let's just get it all in the open. I'm now in a mentality of, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm not going to be enraged. I'm just going to be gratified, because now I know. And the attention that Marilyn Gladu got, well, anybody new is going to be getting the same attention. And it's going to cause even more problems for the Liberal Party. Is the Liberal Party of Canada really the Liberal Party of Canada, or is it something entirely different? And this is what the Liberal voters are starting to ask themselves. The people that were true red Liberals are now saying, what's happening to my party? And this is all the more good news for us, because that means all the progressives, they're going to start looking at the NDP and saying, well, they're actually maintaining the progressiveness that I want, and they're not diluting their party just for power. Maybe they're the ones that I want to go for. And that's a good thing for the rest of the country, folks. So let's just get it all out in the open and shed the dead weight and figure out who's actually still here for common sense and who isn't willing to sell their soul. Because if they're willing to cross the floor, they're a Liberal anyway, because that means corruption, and that means they're putting their self-interest above Canada. That's the definition of a Liberal these days. That's what we've seen for the last 11 years. So let's just get it in the open. That's my my thought. Anyhow, we are going to be extending a invitation to Miss Gladu to come on the show to explain herself. She may be disinclined to acquiesce to our request, but we're going to extend it anyway. And we will be fair. We will not give her any gotcha questions, but we are going to be giving some straightforward questions that her voters would want answered. So hopefully we can get her on. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. Before we go any further, I want to make sure we get through some of the pre-chat activity. So Jessica Van Luke for $7. Great to see you. So amazing that my parents accepted Dana White's offer and that she's improving daily. The fact she was able to sit up and hug her dad is amazing. When I read that, let's be honest. When any parent read that, everyone is just thinking, what if it were my child? And I think everyone just, you can't help but get a little choked up when you read something like that. So all the well wishes from NP Nation going out to Maya and her family, and hopefully she will get even better care. This is what's being promised in the United States. And but let's not take away from the care that she has received up to this point. All of the nurses, all the doctors, and all the medical staff that has helped her from the early indications, helped her defy the odds. So she may be moving hospitals and medical care, but there was a team that has been helping up to this point that got her to this point out, hopefully out of the woods and to the point where she could actually be moved. So, just round of applause for those folks that have been caring for her. It's they're almost Canada's first family right now, the way things have been going. So anyway, all the best of luck to Maya and her family as she makes the journey, and hopefully makes as full of recovery as she possibly can. Brian Campbell for $20. Thank you very, very much. Hi, Ryan and Tanya. So proud of both of you reporting the truth. I am not that smart on PCs, but was wondering the reports on Pierre about Vashti telling him to sit down, you old man bots, or just the liberals and their fake news. About Vashti telling him to sit down. I'm not sure what that's referring to. So I don't think I can answer that. And for another $20, thank you very much. Second, wondering if the post about the CBC interview also bots, and also about his mother's passing. One last thing. Was it Ryan's idea to put bunny ears on the kids? No, that was not my idea. That was Tanya's idea. Can't say. There's a lot of suspected bot activity out there. It seems very apparent. And the reason why is because when you see very little activity, and then all of a sudden there's lots of activity, and there's no real change in the social media landscape or political landscape to warrant that change in activity, that's when the question marks still start flying up. Michelle Ferreri's noticed it. I've noticed it. Tanya's noticed it. I think Mario's commented on it. There's been some other folks that have commented on it. So there is some questionable activity on social media and some of these channels right now. So I can't say for 100% sure though. Mr. Peachy for $5. What are your thoughts on having MPs sit as an independent until next election instead of going to a by-election to save taxpayer money? Well, here's my problem with that. In principle, makes sense. Love saving taxpayer money. However, here's the problem with that. So if somebody says, I want to cross, let's say the Conservatives get into a minority government, and let's say one of the Liberals wants to cross, I would still say, go away. I'm against floor crossing. But what that would lead to is the Liberal going to sit as an independent. Well, are they just going to vote for Conservatives anyway? In a way, that almost gives them the ability to kind of work up and justify their crossing, and it actually makes them potentially easier to get reelected in the next election, should the other party want to take them. If we're looking at it on the flip side, let's say a Conservative wants to cross to the Liberals right now, and they would have had to sit as an independent. What are they being offered in the background? To sit as an independent and still support that government, making it a majority anyway. So that's the problem I have. It's as much as it is frustrating in that it would cost taxpayer money, I don't know if I would be remiss to say this or not, but I would almost rather that by-election be called to ensure voter confidence is maintained. To me, that is paramount. Voter confidence and confidence in our democracy. The people who voted for this person need to be confident that this person is going to be voting for the interests that they put them in office to do. If they're not willing to do that, then it should go to a by-election. That's my thought on it. We have too many problems with voter confidence in this country right now, and too many problems with lack of confidence in our government institutions, in our democracy. The list goes on, and I'm sure everybody would agree with that statement. So we need to be getting to a point where we increase voter confidence and maintain voter confidence. To me, yes, it's going to be costing taxpayer money, but what you're gaining is confidence that the person that is actually going to be representing the constituents in that riding, no matter what it is, they are going to be voting in your interest. So hopefully that makes sense. And that's just my personal opinion. And people are free to agree or disagree with that. Jessica Van Luke for $7. Willow's kittens could come as early as next week. Can't wait to send you all pictures so you can show them on the live stream. Absolutely. We would love to see them, and we would love to show them, Jessica. So as soon as you get them, and believe me, Tanya will be really interested in seeing them. So hopefully we can show them. Well, not hopefully we can show them. Hopefully we can get them before the next live stream, and then we'll show them. Robbie Sadie's for $10. Come one, come all. Welcome to the Carnival of Corruption and Maleficence. I really do wish someone would actually investigate it. We are becoming Banana Republic in all but name. It's disgusting. And they're being so blatant about it, right? Remember Mark Carney? It's on that interview. Are you courting people? We're not courting people. You know, people just want to come over. Meanwhile, how many people are you talking to? Well, you know, we're talking to like 8 people and trying to get them to come over. But, you know, that's fine. Release the arrogance, Mark Carney. As a couple of people had said, I think Ned Kirk was one of them. We're going to see exactly who Mark Carney is now. He's had to be on good behavior up until now. Once he gets his majority, we're going to see exactly who he is. And let's see what happens then. Let's see how he acts. Jessica Van Luke for $7. 2 live streams this week. Can't believe it's by-election day tomorrow. Right? Right? So, live stream tomorrow, folks. Don't forget. Pat G for $14. So I am wondering about democratic socialism. Isn't that an oxymoron? Can you want democracy and total control at the same time? Well, so technically democratic socialism is supposed to be a government that just leans more social. So, you know, the government provides more services to everybody. Government provides a grocery store, according to Avi Lewis. The government provides your telecom, your internet, you know, all of the major services. That's all socially provided, aka taxpayer funded. But the more socialist you get, the more tyrannical your government becomes. This is not news to everybody. Rusty Shackelford for $2. Thank you very much. Rest up, Tanya. Happy birthday, Vincent. Thank you very, very much, Rusty. Great to see you again. Real Steven Jensen for $10. Canada is a banana republic. Build absolutely nothing anywhere near anything. That's phenomenal. That's a phenomenal acronym. Steven Jensen. Awesome. And Grooveyard dropping 1 Northern Perspective membership. You know what? It just occurred to me. I should probably go over here to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And it looks like it's a good thing I'm going to, because otherwise I will probably miss some things. But so far, I think I'm good. Okay. We go to next. The Immigrant Beaver the Immigrant Beaver Hades for $2. Ontario is a have-not province 2026. Elbows up. Yeah, you can say that again. And we have Just Me Nicole, member for 27 months. Good evening from the small town of fake maple syrup. 2,000 in this town, and we get the idiot. Robert Hayes for $2. Happy birthday, Vincent. Feel better, Tanya. Thank you very much for that. Goko Donnie for $10. Happy birthday, Mini-Me. And I did see your message of having to RMA that board. That sucks. I've not had great luck with ASUS boards, so I've moved on from ASUS. I used them for years, but I will not go back until they've earned some more consumer trust in the future. You're in Rachel for $7. I think Marilyn Gladu crossing the floor is the very thing needed to trigger Carney's downfall. The progressives are not happy. LOL. Any gift for the NDP? Yeah, absolutely. That's what we were saying this week. It's actually laughing at the meltdown going on over this. Liberal commentators, Rachel Gilmore, CBC, like everyone is just losing their hat over this. It's kind of funny to watch. And Wiffer says, that's for $20. The CTF has a petition for recall legislation. Chris Sims spoke about it in an interview on another podcast when they talked about floor crossing. Would you be in favor? 100%. 100%. I'm in favor of recall legislation for anybody. Any politician. Why? Because if they're not doing their job, the electorate should be able to do something. Get them out of there. Absolutely. Let's see. If one of the mods, you could put a reminder for us to reach out to the CTF on that. That would be great. Theorica, member for 20 months. Best birthday wishes, Vincent. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. And next we have Strange Brew, member for 5 months. I have to admit, these floor crossers are really getting to me mentally. How much worse can it get before Liberal voters realize it? Well, they're starting to realize it right now. They are starting to realize it. This is what you're starting to see. And I think this is going to make, well, not I think, I know. You can see it start to happen. The Liberals are getting more arrogant as they speak. And that means they're going to care less about the average voter. They're going to care less about how people view them because they have short-term memories. So that's what I said at the beginning. Let's see them. Let's see all of them. Get them all out in the open. I want to know. And I want the Conservatives to name the people that are talking to you. I want them to name and shame them. Evan Solomon was talking to Marilyn Gladu. I want to name them all. And Finley Entertainment for 26 months it was women hauling oversized. I've retired. Happy birthday, Vincent. Well, I hope this is appropriate. Congratulations on your retirement. Hopefully that's a good thing. But thank you very, very much for the birthday wishes. Brenda Gale Pliss, we are being shoved off a cliff into a liberal, authoritarian, corrupt kleptocracy, in my opinion. We will see. Although there are some concerning things to look at as we move forward into a liberal majority, we will still be standing vigilant for the folks across this country to ensure that you will get all of the information that you need. Message. Oh, how about this? Public service announcement right now. If in the, I think, unlikely scenario, but if in the unlikely scenario that all of a sudden legislation comes through and that prevents you from seeing Northern Perspective, you need to keep an eye on northernperspective.ca because that's where we will have some sort of update there. So that's your contingency plan. If all of a sudden you stop seeing our stuff, you can also keep checking our YouTube community for updates and posts there. But this isn't anticipating anything in the short term. This is just us planning long term. So we're still going to be around for a long, long time. But if that ever happens, check the website, check the community for any updates. TP Can Foundation, great to see you guys. Mark Carney can celebrate with insiders all he wants. Canadians are still dealing with rising costs, housing pressure, and decisions made without accountability. This isn't leadership, it's optics. Thank you, guys. And that was for $20. Well, thank you very, very much from the Turning Point Canada Foundation. Great to see you in chat. Thank you. And completely agree. Completely agree. Nothing has happened, but there's a lot of very passionate, liberal posters out there. Those aren't the ones that we need to convince. Those aren't the ones that we need to talk to. We need to talk to the swing voters that are starting to think, it's been a year and nothing's really happened. Things are getting worse. What's happening? Grover for $28. My heart goes out to that child of the shooting, not a God-fearing person, but want the best for her and her family. 100%. Thank you. Jessica Van Luke for $7. Congrats to Elon Harper for winning the Conservative candidate nomination for Calgary Confederation. Big things are coming. Absolutely. Congrats to Ellen Harper. And now that she is a candidate of record, or sorry, the official candidate of record is the last election, we can potentially have her on, because one of the things that we ensure that we do on Northern Perspective is when there are active nomination races going, we stay out of it. We've had people asked to come on the show while a race is going on. We have declined that invitation for the very reason of we want to make sure that it is going to be a fair race, and we don't want to even give the appearance that we are potentially endorsing one candidate or over the other. So we want to make sure that we stay out of it until that race is complete, and then we're happy to have people on the show. See, we're not even in the government, and we're trying to do our part to ensure a fair democracy out there. Jim Ross for $20. Many are in it for $200K a year. They don't care about their constituents, only the perks and a job. Good job after politics. All parties must recruit better to get believers in party platforms, not just someone who can get elected. I think it's a fair point, Jim. I do. And, you know, we don't just need people from the C-suite. Nothing wrong with people from the C-suite. And what I mean by that is people that, you know, were executives in their old job before deciding to run. But we have to be careful. We have to evaluate character. We have to make sure that they're in this. So it's a very fair point. F-Hawk 595 for $20. Carney was bashing the USA at the beginning of his convention address and later said Canada was going to the moon, and the SEALs clapped vigorously. How dumb are the Liberals not to see a contradiction? Right? Like him or not, the US government could turn around and say, oh, that's how you feel about us? Okay. No more astronauts for you. But, you know, I'm sure Mark Carney is going to take credit for Canadians going to the moon. I'm sure soon Mark Carney will actually say he was actually on Artemis 2 going to the moon, given his track record for borrowing everybody else's accomplishments. He'll regale us with the tale of going around the moon and how tough it was going through the atmosphere and into splashdown. Must have been very hard on Mr. Carney going through all that. Western Canadian for $10. Happy birthday, Vincent. I hope Tony will feel better. I can't believe Patrick Pichette in convention want to lock inside Canada youth Canadians because they can't make Build Better Canada with their BS policies. Yeah, that was insane, wasn't it? $500,000 from a person who doesn't live in Canada. From a person who went down south to be an executive at Google and now lives in Europe. But, you know, now that you're done, put a $500,000 exit tax on everybody else. And everybody clapped. Okay. A lot of people in NP Nation were actually at convention. There was no discussion of things like that at the convention, let me tell you. Okay, do a couple more and we will get into the content. Alberta Freedom for $5. Carney is acting exactly like a CEO would, executing a hostile takeover of another corporation. Us Albertans figured that out last year. Well, and this is what he's been doing, but I think it's going to be more evident now. I think he's going to think, oh, job done. Now I don't have to care anymore. Or let me rephrase that. Now I don't have to appear as if I care anymore. And we have Cream and Sugar Films for $14. Is there any parliamentary recourse to get CBC to turn on their comments? They're funded by the people, yet deny the people the only direct way to express their opinions on their coverage bias. Cheers. I don't know. Not at this point, but it would be interesting to see what could happen if well, if they end up being defunded, then we don't have to worry about it. So it's kind of a chicken and egg thing. But as of right now, even if there were, I don't see it actually happening, unfortunately. But I don't disagree. You're publicly funded, so you should be we should be allowed to actually post comments and criticize the organization that is alleging to be independent but is using 70% of their budget as tax dollars. Wilson Weber for $10. I'm from Sarnia, and I don't know how true this is, but I heard that one of the reasons why Marilyn crossed was the fact that the Liberal government wouldn't help us out unless she crossed. So that has been a, let's just say, quiet statement said out loud by a couple of these MPs. So that was actually said by Marilyn in, I think, the local interview that she did for the local publication. So this is what Canadians need to see. Mark Carney is saying, if you didn't vote Liberal, you're not worthy of government funding. So what happened to the Prime Minister that is trying to unify Canada? You're saying that if you don't live in a Liberal riding, you don't get any government funding? There's words for that, but they're not for me to say on this show right now. Okay. So David Coletto, he is the CEO of Abacus Data. Abacus Data has been one of the more trustworthy pollsters out there. There's not many, but he's been one of the more trustworthy ones. And there's been some chatter online. Vesper has done some analysis on this, and he posed some questions about a lot of these pollsters and some of their relations to different left-leaning individuals. We already know that Frank Graves of Eagles Polling is biased beyond belief because he admitted it years ago when Pierre Poilievre ended up becoming leader, and he publicly stated that Pierre Prime Minister, or he will do anything that he can to ensure that Pierre Poilievre never becomes Prime Minister. I don't make idle threats, quote unquote. Subsequently deleting that. So it's interesting that shortly after there's been a lot of talk about what's going on with the polls, that David Coletto ended up dropping some interesting conversation on X. And I applaud him for this. I really, really do. And he was saying some very, very interesting things without saying them. He has to keep it professional. He has to keep it respectful. But on Northern Perspective, we have the option of reading between the lines. What lines am I talking about? Well, let's take a look. So he begins here. Personal note from David Coletto. Some people assume that when pollsters debate methodology, there's a partisan agenda hiding underneath. I want to be direct. That's not what's happening here. At least, not from where I sit. That's the first indication. I care about how we weight surveys because accuracy is the whole point. If our samples systematically overrepresent certain kinds of voters and underrepresent others, we aren't measuring public opinion. We're measuring a distorted version of it. And a distorted read, regardless of which direction it tilts, leads everyone astray. Governments, journalists, advocates, and citizens trying to understand where their country actually stands. Getting the method right isn't about helping one party or hurting another. It's about earning the right to say this is what Canadians actually think. This is how he opens this. And I think this is very interesting. And some things in here that I catch is that he thinks, well, I can't say what he thinks. What I read from this is that there's other pollsters, other than Abacus, who are partisan. And what I also read from this is something that we actually had some conversation about a Northern Perspective with NP Nation back during the election, where all the polls all of a sudden just suddenly swung all the other way. And we had thought, well, this is interesting. And then we saw some other, mystery pollsters just jump into the fray that haven't been around for either years or ever. And they were all just pushing Liberal support in their polls, which was skewing the aggregate on 338. So it moved further and further and further and further. And this is what David is saying here. He's saying, listen, governments, journalists, and citizens, the electorate, are looking at polls, and they're looking at them to understand what is going on in this country. So if you're providing a distorted view of data and you're saying that the Liberals are, well, they have a very high level of support and maybe that's a distorted view, then what you're doing is you're presenting information that could be distorted to the average person in Canada, and that could sway their opinion or at the very least change their understanding of what's going on in Canada. That's what he's saying there. And in a nutshell, that's what we were saying last year. I think everybody remembers this conversation that we were having, and that's when we told everybody, stop worrying about the polls. So let's continue. Looking at behavior, not just characteristics. If demographic weighting cannot fully correct for imbalance, what can? One answer is to look at behavior, not just characteristics. Asking people how they voted in the last election gives us a benchmark that reflects the actual electorate. It allows us to compare the partisan composition of our sample to a known outcome and adjust accordingly. If a group of voters is systemically underrepresented in your sample, and that underrepresentation is not fully explained by demographics, then waiting to match the actual distribution of past vote can help correct for the gap. So, what he's saying here, and I'm not showing the whole thing because it's very, very long, but what he's saying is when you're polling people, you're not getting a sample of 100,000 people from across the country. You're getting a sample between 1,000 and 4,000. So how do you ensure that that's accurate? Well, you weight it. And the only way to do that is asking demographic questions and other types of questions. So what Coletta was saying is that basically all pollsters weight by demographic. You need to. That's important. But what he's saying is the problem is not all people that are polled are going to be representative of the electorate. So you need to correct for that, because what if on one day you end up with more actual Liberal voters than Conservative voters? Some people may say, well, that's just how it's polled. No, not necessarily. And we're going to get to that in a minute. So in understanding that, one way to correct for that is to look at how these same people voted in the last election, right? And that way you know, okay, were they partisan from the start? Or did their vote actually change? So if they're Liberal now, but they voted Conservatives in the last election, okay, now that's a legitimate data point that you can use. And then you can look at the different demographics of that individual and then where they are from, and then you can weight that accordingly in the overall poll. This is getting pretty technical, but there's a reason why we're going down this path. 43 surveys, 5 elections, 1 consistent pattern. We have been tracking recalled past vote since 2011, meaning people recalling how they voted in the last election. So they've been doing that in their survey since 2011. I took a sample of our surveys from May 2014 and April 2026 to conduct this analysis. Each survey asks respondents how they voted in the most recent federal election. Before we look at those answers, we weight the data by region, age, gender, and education to reflect the Canadian population. But importantly, we do not apply any past vote weighting at this stage of our analysis. That is deliberate. It allows us to see what a standard demographically weighted sample looks like on its own without any correction for partisanship. This is important, folks. Very, 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 very important. Cannot understate it. In every single wave, across every single election cycle, meaning the time between elections in government, Conservative voters are underrepresented in our demographically weighted sample relative to their actual share of the vote. Not in most waves, not in some elections, in every case we can observe. Two things stand out. First, the pattern is consistent. It is not driven by one election, one leader, or one moment in time. It holds across very different political contexts. Second, the gap appears immediately after each election and persists throughout the cycle. If this were primarily a problem of memory, we would expect the gap to grow over time as recall becomes less reliable, but that is not what we see. The bias is present early and remains relatively stable within each parliament. That suggests the issue is not primarily about what people remember or report. It is about who is in the sample in the first place. Looking at our final polls in the last 3 federal elections, applying past vote weighting increased Conservative vote estimates, reduced Liberal vote estimates, and brought our numbers closer to the actual result. In every election, past vote weighting moved our Conservative estimates upward and our Liberal estimates downward, consistently in the direction of the actual result. The 2021 election shows the most dramatic correction, a 7-point improvement of our Conservative estimates. So this is really important to look. What's happening here and what they're saying is what most pollsters are doing is they are not correcting and checking their representative sample in every poll for how they voted in the last election. So they don't really have an idea of whether Conservatives are proportionately represented in that poll. And what Abacus is saying is that after an election, so after the 2021 election, the new cycle starts, meaning the time between that government, when they take power, and when another election is called, and that's when they're polling. So in that election cycle, Conservatives just don't answer polls. And what does that end up doing? That skews the data towards the Liberals. That's why you have lower Conservative representative and higher Liberals. So they show it here. So what they're showing is in the first column, where you see that 30% right at the top, they're saying in 2019, they took a poll. This is what the poll was right before the election. And it was showing 30% support for the Conservatives, 36% for the Liberals. If you look at the actual result for the election, they were off by 4.3% for the Conservatives on an upward trajectory, and they were off by around 3% downward by the Liberals. But if they corrected it for how people voted in the last election, they get a lot closer. And it's the same thing in the 2021 election. Conservatives were down by 7% from what how other pollsters measure versus what the actual result was. Liberals, they were over by 5%, and it's the same thing for the 2025 election. So, this is an explanation for why all these other pollsters have the Liberals so far in the lead. So a lot of Canadians, a lot of people in this chat, a lot of people online have been saying, this feels off. And in our gut, we've known that something was off. And now we actually see data that proves that it's true. So, let's continue. So they went back and looked at the different pollsters. Pollster 1 was the clearest outlier in the liberal-friendly side, averaging approximately 7 percentage points above the consensus. In early April, while the average suggested a liberal lead of around 8 points, pollster 1 was measuring 14. At the other end, we and pollster 2 were consistently measuring 5 to 6 points below the consensus. I raised what might be explaining this discrepancy in the lead up to the election. 3 remaining firms, pollster 3, 4, 5, and 6, clustered closer to the average. Now, everybody knows who pollster 1 is. Everybody knows who pollster 1 is. If you don't know who pollster 1 is, here's pollster 1, because I went back and checked, and yeah, sure enough, this is pollster 1. Ladies and gentlemen, Ecos polling! April 3rd, 2025, they show a 15-point lead. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Yeah, Frankie Graves, right here. And it's funny that Abacus Data calls him out, but doesn't call him out. Absolutely hilarious. Did pollsters converge as election day neared? Kinda. But look at Frankie Graves. Like, he was just, he's so off. Limitations, honesty, and what this means. It is important to be clear about what past vote weighting can and cannot do. It does not eliminate all sources of error. If there has been real large-scale vote switching since the last election, past vote weighting can overcorrect by pulling people back toward the previous choice. We saw this in 2025 with the NDP, where both weighted and unweighted estimates overstated support because of rapid vote movement during the campaign. As we saw, everyone moved away from the NDP to other parties. Past vote recall is also imperfect. Academic research does find that some respondents misremember or reinterpret the last vote. This is where David Coletto is being very careful, professionally. Quote, I do not believe that other pollsters are purposefully doing anything wrong. Every pollster should be trying to solve the same problem with the tools and evidence available to them, end quote. Very cheeky for him to say this. Every pollster should be trying to solve the same problem with the tools and evidence available to them. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. This is probably the second most important part in this entire video. Our analysis suggests that in the current cycle, a demographically weighted sample could be underrepresenting conservative voters by about 5 to 7 points. If that structural gap is not corrected, polls will tend to show a larger liberal advantage than may actually exist in the electorate. This helps explain why our polling has often shown a tighter race than others. The difference is not what people tell us about their current vote. It is how we adjust the composition of the sample. Ladies and gentlemen, we have factual evidence right now, provided by Abacus Data, that the other pollsters are getting it wrong. Why they're getting it wrong? That's up to people and their opinions. We have to be careful what we say on Northern Perspective. That's up to people and their opinions. But they've shown the data, and they've shown, especially when it comes to this is what the data shows when you do not correct and you only go by demographics, and it is pretty far away from the actual result when election day happens. So, how would this change things? Well, is this the one I want? This is the one I want. So, this is Abacus poll right now, 2026. They did have the Liberals up by, I think, 11. That has shrunk to 6 points. This is what we've expected to see. That is very good news. That means in the corrected sample, support is starting to normalize and to go back to the Conservatives. And you also see the NDP up by about 2 points. That's a good thing. And all the polls that you see Nanos, you see Ecos, you see Ipsos, you see all these guys at 11, 12, 13, 10. But if they're all off between 5 and 7 points, and you correct for that, all of them should be around 6 or 7 right now. And that's a massive difference. It's a massive difference in what is happening out there in terms of the polling. Someone says, so who cares? It's what I said at the beginning. A lot of people are concerned with the polls because they're saying, well, the Liberals are up 12 points, they're up 13 points, they're up 14 points. But we just learned that they're not. And them being off by about 5 to 7 points, that has a dramatic shift in public opinion of what's going on out there. And people are swayed by polling numbers. We know this. It's the peer pressure effect. So if you're a swing voter and you're like, well, I don't really know what to think. Oh, well, the polls have the Liberals up by 15. Well, I guess they're doing a good job then. I'm going to go back to my life. Versus the Liberals are up by 6. But the media is trying to say that Mark Carney is doing a really good job. But if they're only up by 6, then people don't really think that they're doing a great job. Maybe I should pay a little bit more attention. That's why this is so important. So this is wild because this is a pollster saying this out loud, saying what we've all thought this whole time, that the other pollsters are giving the Liberals a bias. And it seems that that's exactly what's happening. Evidence-based data shows that. So I'm hoping that this is going to give people a little bit of a different perspective on polls and the numbers that are out there, and that I would use Abacus as your baseline. Say, where are they at? And if everybody else is about 5 to 7 points above them, then you can pretty much count on, okay, based on the Abacus data poll, I can subtract 5 to 7 points off of all of the other pollsters, and that's probably the actual average that we're seeing out there. And even then, there's still a margin of error, right? Because in that one slide that I showed you, where Abacus did adjust for it, they were still off by a couple of points. But at least it's a lot better than being off by 5 to 7. So consider that. Consider that as we look at this. But that was a stunning revelation when I was reading that. And I salute David Coletto for calling it out, for putting it out there. And he did so in a very clever way. He didn't attack other pollsters. He didn't name anybody. It was pretty obvious who pollster 1 was. But what he did do is he put it out there for the other pollsters to read it and say, I know what you're doing. And now you don't have an excuse to correct it. Because here's the analysis. The analysis is sound. He actually goes through a bunch of different cases and a bunch of different methodologies and the analytics behind it and the justification behind it. So he backs up his argument here. And he essentially tells everybody, hey, this is our methodology. This is how we poll. So I hope that gives some clarity on the polling going on right now. It makes me feel a lot better, personally. And it shows me that we should be seeing hopefully, a slow, gradual shift back on the light side as we move forward in the coming months. So, anyhow, let's get back to some of the administrative items here. We have Brenda Place for $14. Thank you very, very much. Do you think that we are being shoved off a cliff into a liberal, authoritarian, corrupt kleptocracy? I do. Well, They may be trying to shove us, but this is where we need to dig in, and that's what we said the other day. Rebus says for $5, in my opinion, with the censorship laws coming down, now with Carney having a majority, there will be no way to oppose it, and I feel totalitarianism will follow. Well, no, but there is. This is where the Senate comes into play. This is where Canadians need to be extremely active. As active with the C9 bill, be active with these other laws as well. The Senate, by convention, does not block money bills. Just how it works. But they can prevent other bills that have nothing to do with money from moving along. And they have no loyalty to Mr. Carney. They have no reason to do anything that he wants. So as these laws come down, we need to be active, we need to be loud, and we need to be aggressive in our contact with the MPs, in letters, in phone calls, as well as with the senators, if and when these bills make it to the Senate. Because for these non-money bills, what the Senate has the capability of doing is they have the capability of taking it, studying it, saying these amendments need to be in this bill, and they can send it back to the House. And if the House sends it back without the amendments, the Senate can say, okay, well, we're just going to put that over here. Thank you very much. If they don't think it's constitutional, if they think it's going to be violating rights, if they think it's going to be doing a whole bunch of things. There is no convention that says they actually have to look at that bill. They get to decide what happens and what the agenda is in the Senate. Mark Carney does not. So that is a recourse for Canadians. John Gotti for $10. Carney makes me laugh. He said Canada will double non-U.S. trade over the next decade. So we need another 10 years and still the U.S. to be our largest trade partner, right? That's exactly it. Like, oh, great. Double non-U.S. trade. So you want to get to what? 30%, 35%. Come on. But this is all optics, right? It's all, it sounds big, sounds large to people. That's why they say, oh, China's our second largest trading partner and so is our fourth largest. And it's way down. There's nothing there. It's hardly any trade at all. But they don't tell you that. When hauling oversize, you're going to see Rachel Gilmore flip on her head. She just got hired by Juno as their... Okay. I How about this one?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for her.
She's their fact checker.
You sure about that? Right.
Congratulations, Rachel Gilmore. Okay. Shortest job interview ever? I don't know. Okay, sure. Wow. Thank you for that. It's not April 1st, right? Like, are we sure that's not an April Fool's joke? Jim Ross for $10. Mark Carney said he was going to run government just like a business. Businesses buy the parts they need to get the results they want for their own benefit. So he's doing this for his winning strategy. I guess so. Leek Busby for $5. My theory, the CPC MPs who flipped will self-distrust or self-destruct, maybe, split, or even take over the Liberals. I guess we can call LPC Maple MAGA these days, right? Right? How do you explain this? And this is why people are losing their minds. Jack Black. Jack Black's in chat. What the heck's going on?
Emotional damage.
For $7, in my opinion, Carney is worried that the left wing of his party are going to flip to NDP. That's why he needs more MPs. Maybe. That'd be nice. All the environmentalists and all of these super progressives end up crossing the floor, and then they end up with a minority. Can you imagine if that happened? This would be literally the craziest parliament in the history of Canada, bar none. There's already been, it's funny. You see these people arguing about the floor crossers, and they put these stupid graphs up, and they're like, oh, well, this isn't unprecedented. Johnny MacDonald had the most, and like so-and-so, John Chrétien had these, and Mark Carney had these. The only difference is that Johnny MacDonald had those over the course of several parliaments. Jean Chrétien had all of his over the course of several parliaments. Mark Carney has had all these in one. And it's unprecedented that this is the only time in the history of Confederation that floor crossing has led to a change in the electoral result of a minority to a majority government. So if anyone is talking about this online, that's your retort. That is the only thing that matters in this. If this was like 1 or 2 and the Liberals already had a majority government, it would still be bad because they're still betraying their constituents, but it wouldn't be having the same effect as it is. Anyway, thanks for joining us, Jack Black. Loved High School Musical. And we have Sean Lefty Legend member for 29 months. A big happy birthday to Vincent. Hope Tanya is better soon. Looking for a silver lining in the Liberal majority. At least they will not be able to blame the cons for their failures anymore. Well, at least swing voters won't be able to believe them. Murray Perrin for $2. Isn't it illegal to get things for her riding? So technically no, because she's not benefiting personally by getting things for her riding. But she did say that this is the best decision for me personally. And she said that multiple times. What does that mean, Mr. Carney? Inquiring Canadians want to know. Because if she is benefiting personally with something approaching what it would be characterized as a bribe, that is violating Section 119 of the Canada Criminal Code. Will Davey for $5. Name and shame those talking for sure. Hope someone plays along and records a conversation plus the offer made to expose anything shady or illegal. That'd be nice, right? That'd be really nice. Doo-doo for $20. Carney just threw away his shield with his majority. In the past, he would pass bills with the help of other parties while being able to pin the blame on the other parties. Now he has to shoulder the full blame. Absolutely. He didn't even have any excuses before, except to say, well, the Conservatives are filibustering. The Conservatives are filibustering. He has no excuses now. Zero. And you may see the Conservatives change their tactics as well. If they're not afraid of an election based on the polls, we'll see what happens. But it's going to be an interesting parliament, that's for sure. Mr. Peachy for $5. How about the Liberal convention where the guy said to charge Canadians $500,000 to leave the country? Is this not a charter violation, freedom of autonomy? Yeah, I don't think that would ever pass. Well, even if it passed, it would immediately go to court. Immediately. All the constitutional foundations and civil liberties associations, they would be lining up at the court docket for that. But it just shows the elite and the mentality of the Liberal Party and the people that they bring to speak on this. There's so many self-inflicted blows to the Liberal Party over the last week. It's been insanity, but this is what happens when they get arrogant, right? And TP Canada Foundation for $20. Thank you very, very much. Mark Carney celebrates Canadian struggle. That's the disconnect. Canada needs accountability, not arrogance. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. We have D. Lynn EA, member for 23 months. When power feels itself slipping, it tightens its grip, but pressure doesn't fix a failing foundation. It only exposes it. Kind of similar to the Grand Moff Tarkin analogy, which I butchered on my other video. And somebody corrected me. I said galaxies slip through your fingers. It is star systems. Usually I'm a stickler for what things say in movies, but yeah. And Doodoo for $100. Thank you very, very much for that, Doodoo. But there is still hope with BC Conservatives gaining ground and Finlay growing in popularity and the NDP falling if she wins leadership and becomes premier. That can create a unified Western from which can bypass Carney and throw a wrench in his plans. The more conservative premiers that we get, absolutely, the more of a provincial front can be used against the Carney government. And there's a lot of tools at play that they can employ with that. They just need to work together. And this goes back to, I think, some discussion that people raised in question period, like our question period. One thing the Conservatives need to do, and not just the Pierre Poilievre Conservatives, I think all of the provincial Conservatives, they need to have some sort of summit and get on the same page. They really, really do. Because if they're all on the same page and they all share similar values, then they can enact the same agenda. You can do what's best for your province, but you can also do what is best for the group. And this is where the brilliant, beautiful mind of John Nash actually comes into play. Governing dynamics. So, Adam Smith had stated originally that the best result in capitalism always comes from the individual doing what's best for the individual. And he said, incomplete. The best result will always come when the individual gets the best outcome for himself and the group. You end up getting mutual benefits and an equilibrium of the market. So this type of governing dynamics applies to the provincial premiers as well as the federal party. Because if they all work together, you have strong provincial parties, strong provincial premiers, strong provincial governments, and potentially, and hopefully, a strong federal government. All acting in Canada's best interest and their individual province's best interest. I don't see a losing strategy in working with all of the different provinces. And I probably butchered the quote, but there you go. Glenn Stewart, man, for 27 months, I'm trying to find a way to wake up people to the truth. I am thinking of starting a protest of some sort to show crossers are not wanted. Protests are definitely a way to do that. And I hope the folks in Sarnia are showing Marilyn Gladue what they think of her crossing the floor. And Jessica Van Luke, thank you very, very much for $7. Ellen was a huge part of why Harper became PM, and it was a part of helping Pierre win his leadership race. All will be told when you interview her. Love to have her on. Love to have her on. Mods, can you make a note of that too? That'd be great. And Iron Creed, I believe. I want to make sure I get this right. I'm angry at Gladue crossing, but initially I hoped that for riding getting attention made me feel that let's cross, get some work done, and expose. There you go. And Cools Reacts for $5. Thank you very much. I'm not even upset no more about the Liberal disciples getting majority. I just know it won't end well for them next election. Yep. Just keep it up. Let's see them all. Because all the folks that, we really respect in the Conservative Party, we're 100% confident that no one's going anywhere. Stefan Bertrand for $5. To me, these floor crossings prove that today's Liberals, since JT, along with legacy media, don't truly believe in democracy. NDP are getting it. Yeah, it's kind of weird, eh? But this is what we were trying to say, is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Enemy NDP? Kind of similar. But this is where you can work with parties that you don't share your platform with. And this is where the NDP and the Bloc and the Conservatives if I were them, I'd be working together a lot in the backgrounds. Only insofar as how can we keep cutting the legs out from the Liberal Party? And I know that there's been some collaboration between the Conservatives and the Bloc, at least in committee. Not all committee, but you have seen it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more from the NDP and the Conservatives and the Bloc, especially in a majority. Lazarus for $5. So when do you think the boot will drop and even the Liberals realize, oh, we screwed up with Skidmark, and him getting a majority is a huge mistake? I don't know when, but it's going to come. It's going to come. I think that much is certain. I think the mask is going to drop for Mark Carney. For the rest of the folks, we already see through it on the Conservative side, but I think it's going to drop, and I think people are going to say, oh, this isn't a good thing. So I think it's coming. I don't know when, though, but it's coming. Samson Ram for $5. Why haven't those MPs who were approached and have no intention to do so spoke publicly on what was offered and who offered it? Bribery is illegal. So a lot of times what happens is if you don't really show interest, there is no carrot, right? A lot of times it's quote unquote flirting, like political flirting, like, oh, how's it going? You do such a great job. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to see how receptive you are to the sweet talking. And if you're not, or they'll say, oh, you know, like things are pretty tough, and I've heard, you know, there's a lot of problems over in Pierce Caucus. Would you be interested in having any discussions about coming over? And that's where usually a lot of this ends, right? So there is nothing. But it would be interesting if some people were like, oh, sure, yeah, let's talk. And this was to someone else's suggestion earlier on about, you know, why don't they record them and get them to actually admit some of this stuff and everything like that. It would be interesting to see if that happened. But I don't care who's saying what. I want them publicly named and shamed. That's my personal preference. Sean Lefty Legend for $10. I find it interesting that I used to get at least a call a week from pollsters about the government. I haven't had one in almost a year now. Go figure, as I spoke highly about the Conservatives. I've had Palace Data call a couple times. I've just hung up. It's just my instinct. And Tanya has said to me last time, like, no, you should answer it to give them a conservative data point. So I'm going to try and do that, but it just comes through as spam, right? And if it's not them, it's someone trying to sell me extra insurance. I don't need it, or trying to give me, you know, air duct cleaning, or trying to tell me that Windows sent them an error message and they need to take over my computer and steal all my credit card information. So I gotta screen my calls more. Carol Real, member for 23 months. It is so comforting to have the data proving something we have felt is happening for years. Yeah, absolutely it is. And to just point to something and say, aha! Lazarus for $20. MSM wants Pierre to step down, triggers a leadership race, and then Doug Ford steps down as premier and runs in that race. He wins, and then Carney has controlled opposition. No. Wow, that okay. I'll finish. Seeing as how Ford already owns knee pads. Okay, so let's just play that out. So Pierre steps down. Ford steps down as premier. Ford launches a leadership campaign. And then Ford gets last. Because the people in Ontario only voted for Ford and that conservative government because there is no alternative conservative government. That's the only reason why Ford is there. Ford steps into a leadership race with the Federal Conservative Party. Go for it. Go for it. I would love to see the embarrassment on his face when it's announced. Oh, yeah, you only got 5% of the vote in the first ballot. Congratulations, Mr. Ford. Goodbye. That's what would happen in a federal leadership race if Ford does that. So yeah, that's what they would want to happen. I don't believe for one second that's what would happen. We have one WW guy. Good to see you again for $20. I think most vote for the party, 100%, and that if an MP does not want to stay with the party they ran for, they must rerun and should not be able to sit as an indie, as they would still be stealing the votes of the people who elected them. Yep, I agree. It's exactly what I said before. And -1-2 for $5. Majority of Canadians have shown time and time again that they are completely clueless about politics and would rather be lied to for the 11th year in a row. Well, again, remember, this is based on Abacus's poll. 43% of Canadians in the last election cast an uninformed ballot. So it's not even the fact that they'd rather be lied to. It's that they don't even know they're being lied to because they don't pay attention. And I get it for a lot of these people. They're working 3, 4 jobs. They don't have time to see what's going on in Ottawa. Think about your time before you paid attention to politics. And what you knew about politics, what you knew about parties, what you knew about things going on. So it's hard to blame the people that are too busy trying to survive than to educate themselves about what's going on in politics. It's no less frustrating. But I can at least kind of understand some of these people. And that's the real tragedy. Because as a consequence of this affordability crisis, it creates a political education crisis. Because people don't have time to even spare the time to pay attention. Lazarus for $5. Other pollsters aren't getting it, quote unquote, wrong. It's to demoralize us and make us lose faith and be angry and give up. Yep, don't disagree. It's not going to happen here. Richard Curry for $28. Thank you very, very much. Happy birthday, Benson, and best wishes to Tanya. Get well soon. Thank you very much. I'm sure she heard that. Libby T for $10. How, when the Liberals get their majority, or now when the Liberals get their majority, they can't blame the Conservatives for not getting anything done. You got it. You got it. And this is where people are going to say, huh, that's right. You guys have had a majority. Why isn't anything getting done? Roy Dixon, member for 12 months. Have you seen any of the stuff happen in Ireland, and with Mark Carney getting a majority, can he change any election laws? He can try. He can try. If he changes anything like too grossly, that's something I could see stopped in the Senate, 100%. Because as a senator, you're going to be there after Mark Carney goes. And you don't want your legacy to be that. So there's, and you know, some people call me naive for having some faith in the Senate, but in talking to some of the senators and in watching them in committee, even when the Liberals were passing this stupid GST thing last year, or rather in 2024, they were grilling Chrystia Freeland. The Conservative Senator only really had one, a couple of minutes of questions. The rest of them were technically Liberal appointed, and they were grilling Chrystia Freeland on this stupid GST holiday. So I still have some faith there. Whether it's misplaced or not, I guess we will see. But yeah, it's he can try and change the election laws. We'll see if he does. Alberta Freedom for $10. Carney and the floor crossers are our biggest advocate for independence. We've had another surge in signatures, and we'll get more tomorrow with stolen majority. Guess we'll see. And Granite Man for $2. Full dictator this week starts learning Chinese. That's a good one. I'm not sure if he would have started learning Chinese this week. I think if he's going to start learning Chinese, that probably happened a year and a half ago. And Linda for $2, an undemocratic majority is a show of desperation. Yes, it is. Rabbit says for $2, there is a new bank account with her name on it. Oh. And Whippers SS for $5. The big tent that the Liberals like to talk about is like the movie The Blob. Happy birthday to your son and get well soon, Tony. Right. It just swallows everything. And anytime they're asked this question, well, so yeah, big tent, will you take anybody? Well, I would frame it differently, or I wouldn't use those words, or some other BS type of answer. Rose says for $5, making it illegal to move from one place to another is a breach of the Geneva Convention. It was one of the legal bits that allowed the fall of the wall. Yep. And repeat in BC for $2, same page as Rob Ford. You're kidding, right? Not necessarily Rob Ford, but I know there's a bunch of people under Rob Ford that don't like Rob Ford, but are still members of provincial parliament and they're conservative. So those are the people that need to get on the same page with. And Sylvia G for $10, the hypocrisy of this $500,000 charge for professionals who leave after education, but yet Liberals provide scholarships for foreign students to come study here and then go home. Right? Right? I don't even have one. I have a meme for that. Rose says for $5, rule 1 is never use a glory hole unless you become a liberal. I wonder what advantages were given to the crossers or how they were compromised. I'm just going to move on from that one, Rose. Jessica Van Luke for $7. Hearing Diana Carney speak this weekend made me miss the elegant Mila Maroney and Lorraine Harper. They actually had style and support their husbands. Well, and they also had supportive husbands as well. Wherever you see Mark Carney, you always see his wife in some sort of subordinate role or location. Like when he's in a box, he's up here, she's down there. When they're walking anywhere, he's behind her or she's behind him. It's just bizarre. And Wanda Hall for $5. What powers will Mark Carney use on Alberta separation now with the majority? I couldn't even say. To be honest, I don't even know if he's going to acknowledge that it exists. That's been his strategy so far, and I imagine that strategy is going to continue. And D. Lynn E. for $5. I don't bet often, but if I did, I wouldn't bet on the Liberal Party holding it together. Feels like it could implode this year. Too many different nuts. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens to the Liberal Party, especially if they get more conservative floor crossers that are Marilyn Gladue class right-leaning. I think there's going to be a lot of really ticked off progressives in that party and ticked off supporters of that party. And it'll be interesting to see what happens as the Liberals continue to get nothing done. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. So anyway, let's see. I'm going to get all set up for this. I'm glad folks have been submitting questions to Barnaby today. I forgot to actually announce that, but everybody is on the ball for that. So thank you. Anyway, folks, here we go.
Oral questions.
Oral questions.
Oral questions.
Let's be careful about some of the words we use. People are watching at home. Their kids are watching.
Okay, folks, welcome to question period. This is all non-super chat related, and I will answer as many questions as possible. Tanya is usually the ones that are screening them, so let's see what we can do. So first question. This is from Jessica Van Luke. Will you guys ever do a members only live stream for fun? We haven't thought about it. If we did, it wouldn't be anything content critically related. So it might be okay to do a members only live stream just as a, hey, get to know, Northern perspective. You guys can ask us some questions that aren't political, that type of thing. So if we were to do one, that's probably what it would be, because we have always stated, and we will always continue to operate this way, that we will never put any critical news or critical content behind a paywall for anybody watching Northern Perspective. It's funny because sometimes we get accused of doing that, and I want to just kind of show them, have you seen our members only content? We show cats, we show computers, we show footage that didn't make it into actual episodes, and some other things. So it's possible. It's possible we could do something like that. We have Joey Prefontaine. Thank you very much. Do you still think the Liberals will have an election in less than 3 years due to having an unstable majority, or Liberals being mad at Carney and leaving? It's hard to say, but the way things are going, they're going to have an unstable majority, and it's possible. It's definitely possible. Do I think it'll happen? I don't know at this point. I am not confident that anything is going to happen this year anymore. But I don't know. Do I think it's a definite that we would be waiting until 2029? No, I don't think I could say that's a definite. I don't know if I have a confidence level right now. And that's because the dust hasn't settled with what is going on right now. So we need to understand how things kind of settle down to understand what that political landscape is going to look like, and what we can possibly and reasonably expect to happen from a Carney government, from an opposition, and from a political ethos aspect within the Canadian population over the next couple of years. So that would be what I would say to that. Repeat in BC. Are these floor crossings a sign of the lax candidate screening that went on in the past? I don't know. I don't know if I would say... You could argue that with Michael Maw, 100%. I don't know if you could have predicted this with Marilyn Gladu, and I don't think you could have predicted this with Matt Jenneru. Matt Jenneru has been around since 2015, right? And Marilyn Gladu has been around, I believe, since 2015 as well. So they were, quote-unquote, loyal conservatives. Marilyn Gladu had conservative social views. She had conservative economic views. She had conservative any views. That was Marilyn Gladu. The candidates don't go through a psychiatric evaluation. Some people may argue maybe they should now. So it's hard to be able to screen, how much of an ego do you have? How insecure are you? That type of thing. Like they don't typically ask those questions. So when it comes to some of these motivations that even Chris D'Entremont, had, it's difficult to be able to predict that type of behavior. But when it came to Michael Maw, there's absolutely a point for that. Jessica Van Luke, should Pierre resign if another floor crossing happens? If though it's not his fault, just to take responsibility. I would say that the only time Pierre should resign is if it's in the best interest for the party and for Canada. If 5 more floor crossers cross, is that, should Pierre resign? Well, it depends. What problem are you trying to solve? Is there somebody better? The only time you really, I would say that Pierre should resign is if there's somebody better waiting in the wings. So that's the only time I think that he should resign. If you plopped him, into the prime minister's job right now, I think he would do an amazing job. So, based on that, should he resign? In my opinion, no, he shouldn't. If 10 more resign, I would say unless the reasoning for that and there's evidence that comes out that there's something, shady going on, or there's terrible leadership going on and there's some evidence for that, I would say, if I were Pierre, I'd be like, no. This is what's happening. And that shows a man that can stick with integrity, right? That shows a man who can say, you know what, these are my principles, and I will fight for them tooth and nail until the end. If caucus decides to remove him, that's a different story. But they need to be very careful about that as well. Remember, Pierre's electorate gave him an 87.4% mandate. The MPs maybe, that are bellyaching about this and that are thinking of crossing, assuming that that's even true. They may say, oh, Pierre's a bad leader and we don't like him. Doesn't really matter what you think. Matters what the conservative members that voted for him, the conservative delegates that voted for him in the last in the delegate leadership race. That question's been settled. So if they end up removing him from leader, like the caucus, because they have that ability, because they've adopted the Reform Act, they have the electorate to contend with next. So they should think long and hard before they think of doing that. But if I'm Pierre, no, I don't think so. Let's see. We have Wolf Eye. Why is Justin Trudeau's name and face popping up everywhere all of a sudden? Some reasons he may not like, but like he has come out of hiding. Honestly, I think he just cannot stand not getting attention. I think he is an attention narcissist. And he just cannot stand not having attention. I think that's why. I think he loves seeing his name in the news. And so that's my thoughts on that. Darlene White, what happens to Bill C-9 that's in the Senate? Should Carney prorogue government even for a day? So what will happen is if Carney prorogues for one day, what will happen is C-9 dies, everything else dies. And then what will happen, most likely, is that, assuming Carney has his majority, he will have one of his people put through a motion to bring back C-9 up to third reading. And that'll be voted on. The majority government will vote on that, and which will bring it back into existence at third reading. And then they will send it back to the Senate. That's what will happen. And any other bills that are in transit, they will most likely do that too, if they want them there. We have Irk. I've heard Polyev detractors criticize him for shaming floor crossers not voting yes on Bill C-306. Why is this? Poison pills in the bill. What are your opinions? I don't recall him shaming... Oh, sorry. Number one, that bill was an NDP bill. It was back in 2012. And I don't know whether or not that was a party vote or an open vote. I'm guessing this was a party vote, so there was a whip vote. Could have been a 3-line whip, meaning that you don't get to have an opinion and you have to vote with the party. So, and this is what a lot of people incorrectly talk about, is when they say, oh, well, so-and-so, didn't vote for this and so-and-so voted this way back in the day, but they're the leader now, so this is hypocrisy, yada, yada, yada. If you're not the leader of a party and the party says we're voting this way, guess what? You're voting that way. You may not agree with it, but that's the way you're voting. And the only time the Conservatives will essentially let you abstain or vote a different way is when it comes down to like a voting of conscience, right? So if you take a certain religious stance to an issue and the Conservatives are going to be voting a certain way and you're saying, well, my religion or my stance on that because of my religion prevents me from voting that way, then they'll say, okay, no problem, you can abstain. That's fine. But when it comes to confidence votes, that's a 3-line whip. And when it comes to some of these other issues that are not religious in nature, you know, there's not really principles of conscience or anything like that. You have to look at all of the different context to this. So we don't know if he was actually not whipped, but like told, Mr. Polyev, this is the way you're voting, or if that was a free vote. From what I saw, all the Liberals voted against it, all the Conservatives voted against it. So we don't have enough information. But my retort to that is, he wasn't leader at the time. He's the leader at the time now, and he gets to decide what he wants. And right now, this is what he wants. We have Ray Uchi. Wouldn't Carney just bribe the speaker to forego precedent and reset committee? He is able to basically bribe any Liberal he wants. He could try, but remember the speaker has a bunch of people working around him that are not elected, so they would be running to the press to talk about that. So I would be very surprised about that. The people in the speaker's office take a lot of pride in their jobs, and they do a really good job at trying to prepare the speaker and things like that. So I'm not too worried about. And Rayuchi again, should there be a 1 million march in Ottawa, organized protest to protest this undemocratic majority? This seems much bigger threat to Canada than COVID mandates. Is there justification for it? Sure. Because not only are we seeing the will of the democratic process in these ridings essentially be overturned, because they voted for a Conservative or they voted for an NDPer, and that person is now changing over to another party that they didn't vote for. Not only that, but Canadians elected a minority government. Meaning, we don't want you to have a full majority government. That's what the country said. And Mark Carney is taking that through all of these shady dealings. So I would say that a protest is absolutely reasonable in this case. And we have St. Thomas. What do you think will happen with the NDP's new leader? Seems to be appealing to the more progressive and might pull support from the Liberals for the floor crossing. Yeah, that's what we've been hoping. The NDP needed a very progressive person. Avi Lewis just has to be careful. He doesn't, I'm going to say, he doesn't come off sounding too out there for the average person, for the average progressive that's in the Liberal Party. That's what he needs to be careful about. If he wants to pull support away from the Liberals, he needs to be progressive, but not fanatically so. That would be my advice to Mr. Lewis. We have John Molnar. Do MPs, when they lose an election, qualify for UIC or any other benefits? I don't believe they qualify for unemployment insurance. They do get severance pay. I know that, because that's technically them being fired. I'm not sure about the unemployment, to be honest. We know some MPs who've lost their seat, so we'll ask them, but I don't believe that they do, but we'll get back to you. Lean on lymph. Does Pierre have something in mind, like a RICO law, to help pull our justice system out of the hole it's in? Sam Cooper has talked about this need in Canada. I don't know. The trick is there's so many different needs and priorities that need to happen within Canada is where does this happen on the scale? I think they have a priority list of criticality, ranked in criticality when it comes to Canada. Fixing the bail system is at the top. Fixing immigration is at the top. Repealing some of this legislation that is damaging to news and to that is enacting censorship issues and concerns, that's at the top. Repealing C-69, repealing the tanker ban, repealing these anti-development laws, those are all at the top. So there's a lot of things that they need to get into. That all needs to be done first. And then they can get to some of the I'm not going to say less, because it's like just slightly below number one in terms of the priority of criticality for some of these issues. They have to get through all the main ones, and then they can get to the next level down. So whether he has anything in mind on that, not sure. And Wolfeye, why are people not pursuing legal actions regarding Section 119 of the Criminal Code? Are politicians scared, or are the legal authorities blind eyes and deaf ears? Well, the catch is you need proof that it's happened. That's number one. And 119, that applies for personal benefit, as far as my understanding. I'm not a lawyer. So you would have to prove that Mark Carney gave a personal benefit to somebody. Now, I don't know if a cabinet position could count as that. Not a lawyer. In my uneducated opinion, I would think, sure, it could, because if you have been documented to be promising a cabinet position to somebody as a result of them crossing the floor, what comes with that is a financial benefit. You essentially get a 50% increase in your salary. So, to me, that sounds like a personal financial benefit. How do you prove that Mark Carney didn't just come to this realization after you had come over? Oh, we didn't promise anything, but now that they're over here, I see what a very skilled individual they are, in to be Minister of Swimming Pool Management. So it's all about what you can prove, right? That's the catch with some of this stuff, as frustrating as it is. We have Donald Robertson. Ryan, if there's evidence of anything regarding polling disparity for cons, then why has nothing been done? Just curious. So there's not really anything that can be done. What Abacus seems to be doing is they've noticed it, they've identified the reason for it, and called it out. The question is going to be not why anything has been done now. The question is going to be, if these other pollsters still continue operating the way they've been operating, and evidently not taking the past voting pattern in previous elections into account, which is resulting in this 5 to 7 point discrepancy. If 6 months to a year goes by and they're not doing that, then the question needs to come out, why is this still happening? So I don't think there's anything illegal about putting that out there, but there are polling standards that you have to abide by. So there may be their overarching regulatory organization that may be asking some questions about that. I'm not sure. Not sure the internal workings of certifying a pollster. But great question. Janet Krett, can I comment on Katie Merrifield resigning? Brian Lilly said it was under less than stellar circumstances, but didn't elaborate. I don't know. I don't know what circumstances it was under. All I do know is that she allegedly resigned of her own volition. She didn't have anything poor to say about the Conservatives or Pierre Poilievre, and she's moving on. That's all I know. If there is anything other than that, then Mr. Lilly knows more than we do on that. Which I hope he does. He's the reporter. The bright side, backyard blooms. On the Juno News website, scroll down near the bottom to clarify. I didn't see a reply back from the commenter. Not sure what that's referring to. Maybe the Rachel Gilmore thing. Autistic Avenger 2000. Can't the JCCF take the floor crossing issue to court for it being undemocratic and hopefully get a judge to annul the current floor crossings and prevent future ones? No. Because it's technically allowed within our system. What they're doing isn't against, quote unquote, the rules. So, and there is no constitutional argument for that, unfortunately. This isn't the first time this has happened. It's the first time it has overturned a election, but the judge may just rule, well, that's besides the point. If 4 people crossed the floor and it wasn't a majority, then, you know, nobody would be potentially challenging this in court. So, and they would argue this is why this is a political issue and not necessarily a constitutional issue. That's my guess. And my guess is, that's why nothing has been filed right now, but who knows? Again, I am not a constitutional lawyer. Maybe there's some constitutional law out there that someone believes that this does make sense. Obi John Kenobi, with a liberal majority, does NP expect a one-day prorogation? Hold on. What's going on here? There we go. Does NP expect a one-day prorogation to reset and omnibus bills to push through all the control clauses in bills that were stripped out? It depends. If they end up getting all three election results tomorrow, I do not. Because then that would they would have 174 seats, and what that would give them is 173 votes, because one's the speaker. So they could pass a motion right then and there to change the composition of committee. That's all they need to do. However, if by some miracle, and it's not even necessarily a miracle, I checked the polls, and the bloc has gained a couple points in the latest aggregate on 338 to be tied with the Liberals, so it's anybody's race now. If the bloc end up taking that seat back, and the Liberals are stuck at 173 seats, then it's possible they prorogue. And this would actually be funny, because if Mark Carney did prorogue, he's on record, last week, saying, oh, I'm not going to prorogue. I've never even considered this. So, because remember, 173 seats, if they try and pass this motion, oh, well, they have 173. No, they still might be okay. Because then they'd have 172. Because there's 343 seats. Yeah. No, they should still be okay. No, I don't expect them to prorogue. It's if they had 172 seats, that would be the problem. That would be the problem. Because if they had 172 seats, and they put through a motion, 171 Liberals vote, 171 opposition members vote, they're in a tie. The speaker votes. Speaker goes with convention, which means the committees would stay as they are, because it's not an actual legislative vote. It's a motion vote, procedure vote. But if they have above 172 seats, so 173 or above, then they don't need the speaker. So, yeah, I don't believe that that they're going to prorogue. They're just going to pass a motion in the House, and committees are changed. Let's see what else we have. Big B2 184. Can Carney change a Senate member to a loyalist to him or change laws to give himself say in the Senate. He cannot change law to give himself say in the Senate. That's in the Constitution. And he can't change it unilaterally. And he cannot change a sitting member of the Senate either. So if the question is, can he just swap out a bunch of people in the Senate for his people? No, he can't do that. They are there until they are 75. There's limited ability to remove a Senate member. Very limited. But he wouldn't be able to essentially do that on a whim. The only thing that he can do is I think there's a couple of vacant seats, so he can appoint new senators. The question is going to be, is he going to go through Justin Trudeau's independent Senate approach, or is he going to be partisan and appoint his people? That's going to be the question. But just because he appoints a couple of people doesn't mean a hill of beans, because there's a whole Senate there that has no loyalty whatsoever to Mark Carney. So, great question, though. Very important one. Let's see. Brian Olmsted, what do you say to Liberal voters that say the reason for the defection of MPs is to the Liberals is because of Pierre, especially when one came from the NDP? Well, yeah. I think I would say, listen. If you listen to any of these people, just listen to Marilyn Gladue. She actually said it has nothing to do with Pierre. It's because I need money for my riding. Okay, so that tells me that your wonderful prime minister doesn't give a crap about the Canadians that live in conservative ridings. So that's number one. And I would say it's the same thing for Laurie Idlow. And some of the other shady stuff that's going on over there. But same thing. And Laurie Idlow, as you pointed out, didn't have Pierre Poilievre as a leader. So, but I would put it on them. Prove it. Prove that it's because of Pierre Poilievre. And I would also say, okay, if it's Pierre Poilievre that's the reason that all these people are leaving, is Mark Carney the reason why Chrystia Freeland resigned? Why 2 or 3 other Liberals have resigned? Is it Mark Carney's leadership that's causing that? Is it Mark Carney's leadership that caused Stephen Guilbeault to resign from his cabinet post? And see what they say. Nova Soul Sigma, can you ask NP what they think of the $500,000 exit task? Well, I would say
WTF.
And I would say,
What the hell are they thinking over there?
And
unmitigated horse pucky.
When I heard it,
Oh, come on!
and that's probably the last one I would say.
He has no idea what he is talking about.
I think that sums up our position on the 500K. We have, if bribery or maleficence is proved, okay, what are the odds that any MP would ever be charged? I would say higher than Justin Trudeau being charged. And obviously people are saying, okay, well, that's
chances are near zero
for Justin Trudeau. But I think they're a lot higher for an MP. I really think they are, because it's not the Prime Minister. I think the RCMP would have more political courage to charge a sitting MP than they would a sitting Prime Minister. How much? I don't know. But I think the chances are higher. Especially if there's actual proof. And if there's actual proof that has been revealed to the public, then I think it goes a lot higher. Then they have political pressure to do it. So, we have Josiah McFarlane. Pierre voted against restricting floor crossing several years. Why would he be for restricting it now? So, he voted once there's been many private member bills that have actually been brought forward for it, and Tanya has a whole list of those that she's been going through in research. But as I explained before, if he has stated he's always been against it, even though he voted for it, then my guess is it was a whipped vote, and he had to vote with what the leader at the time stated, which was Stephen Harper. That's your reason. And why is he for it today? Well, because if you take him at his word, he's always been against it. And now he's the leader, so he can actually do something about it. Simple as that. And the Lightbody SG with the NDP craziness we saw at the convention. Oh my God, yeah. Like I saw those cards, and when I saw those people coming up to the mic, I'm just like,
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
and it did not pay off for them at all. When you have Americans talking about Canadian politics, you know we've screwed something up pretty well. So, anyway, let me finish your question. With the NDP craziness we saw at their convention and don't seem to reflect the historical NDP, do you really think those who went to the Liberals would rejoin the NDP? Well, it depends who's still with the Liberals, right? If there's a lot of environmentalists still with the Liberals, and they have this perception that Mark Carney is moving away from environmentalism, then yeah, they could move over to the NDP. If there's a lot of people that are in the super progressive far left LGBTQ crowd, and they feel that Mark Carney isn't doing enough for that, they could move towards the NDP. Or people that are much further to the left on socialism, and they don't believe that Mark Carney is adopting that type of a stance, they could move to the NDP. So if, especially those three categories of voters, if they are still supporting the Liberals, those are three different voting blocks that are absolutely fair game right now for the NDP. 100%. And as more scandals come out, and if Mark Carney has more instances, and we anticipate that there will be, where he is showing his true colors as the autocratic, technocratic CEO, Avi Lewis, if he's got his wits about him, he's going to be jumping all over that and crying for unions and crying for workers and all of this sort of stuff, and saying they're the elites and we're the 99% and all of this stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity for that. The NDP needs time. The Conservatives need time. The Bloc need time. Mark Carney, he needs results. That's the big difference. So, anyway, folks, it is 11 o'clock. It is on a Sunday. And let's get to some of the administrative items, and then we will call it a day. Okay, we have HD Dave for $5. The stars on the new Canadian flag won't be white, they'll be yellow. Yeah, the new Canadian flag. We have Carol Rion for $5. The libs are becoming like David's tea. Too many flavors in one tea, and it just tastes gross and has a desperation aftertaste. Well played, Carol. Alberta Freedom for $5. Wouldn't it be awesome if the floor crossers were deliberate plants by CPC to bring down the Liberals in a non-confidence vote? LOL. Yes. Yes, it would. That would be fantastic. And everybody, we would be standing up and just saying, all right. It would be fantastic. And I think I would be hyperventilating. I'd be laughing so hard. Derek Macbeth for $6. Pierre has said exactly that a couple times this week. He has no intention of resigning because he has a mandate. Yep, and I've heard him talk about that 87.4% as well, and I agree with him. Libby T for $5. Jubo going to resign. He didn't look too happy at convention. No, because he's sitting there like this. And it's funny, he supported Carney. I think we all remember when he supported Carney in his leadership bid, And they were saying to Carney, don't you think that's going to hurt you having Stephen Gilboa support you? They should be asking Stephen Gilboa, are you still happy that you supported Mark Carney for his leadership bid? A reporter should ask them that. Bravo says for $2. Rumors of Jason Kenney going after Pierre's seat. I don't even know about that because Pierre isn't going to be running in Battle River Crowfoot now. Maybe he'll run in Sarnia. Who knows? It's hard to go after someone's seat when he doesn't even know where he's going to be running yet. Juaniska for $5. Did you hear them talk about the Greenland grab at the Liberal Convention? No, but it doesn't surprise me. Because why not talk about U.S. politics when it comes to, a Canadian political convention? And Knockoff, member for 15 months. A very happy birthday to Vincent. Hope Tanya's voice recovers quickly. The times we are in right now, I'm very fearful. And it's understandable. It's understandable. My attitude, I'm pretty stoic when it comes to this type of stuff, is just get at her. Like this, just work harder. And that's my mentality here, to get at her, get in. And that's why we say to everybody, just get involved. Attach yourself to an EDA, even if it's not yours. Attach yourself to a conservative EDA. You're among friends. You work hard enough and close enough, you'll be among family, and you'll be around folks that will put you a little bit more at ease. Lee Busby for $5. Pierre seems so tired. CPC's biggest challenge is being way too slow to shift. They seem to have too many crooks in the kitchen and need to figure it out. Yeah, they have a lot of work to do, no doubt. They need to. I think they need a retreat, like an actual caucus retreat. And they haven't had one. So whether it's in the summer or whatever it is, they need to go on a caucus retreat. They need to do some team building. They need to air dirty laundry. They need to get it all out in the open. And they need to understand that at the end of that retreat, everyone leaves and they're all on the same page, no matter what. And everyone needs to understand, if you've left that retreat and you haven't voiced any, enough of your stuff for you to feel comfortable, that's on you. But you need to voice it and you need to get it out. Sometimes teams need that. Sometimes the best teams need that. I've had teams where they're really high performing teams, and sometimes I need to take them out of the office. And we just need to have a dinner. We need to have some time and to just work out the issues between people. So, but you're right. They have a lot of work to do. Pierre has a lot of work to do. Pierre needs to ensure that his shadow cabinet and his leadership team are phenomenal people managers. I don't know what the skill set is of everybody, but he needs phenomenal people managers in his leadership team, because those are the people that are going to help him manage the entire caucus. And you need people in there that are used to dealing with large teams, that have managed people, understand how to deal with different personalities, understand how to deal with different interests, different backgrounds, to be able to properly manage this team into a high-functioning government in waiting. Jessica Van Luke for $7. Shiv was on Vashi, and she kept on bringing up past Liberal floor crossings to the cons from 2006 to 2018. How would he know he was elected in 2023? Well, that's the thing. Well, what do you say to that? I wasn't there. That's what I say to that. Many of the people that are actually in this caucus, they weren't there either. So what do you want? Like, come on. Same thing with Rosemary Barton. And he did a great job. D. Lynn for $5. If Liberal power becomes more secure tomorrow, what ensures Canadians don't become less heard the day after? Canadians do. Canadians are the ones that ensure that they don't become less heard after. Liberals are hoping the Conservatives become apathetic. We just throw our hands up and say, oh, that's it. I'm not voting anymore. That's how they win. But we don't do that. We dig in. We become more resilient. We become more resolved and more determined than ever. So if they're hoping for that, they got another thing coming. And I am all too happy to disappoint them. Heather Marie for $7. We're not here to take part. We're here to take over. Connor McGregor. Yeah. Libby T dropping 5 memberships. Thank you very, very much for that. Mary Lou Cleveland for $14. Thank you very, very much. Much appreciated, Mary Lou. And Myron N's dropping 50 Northern Perspective memberships. Holy moly. Thank you very, very much for that, Myron. And if you get any memberships from any of these wonderful people tonight, please ensure that you give them a big thank you. And Jake the Gamer, member for 7 months. It's crazy that David Coletto called out pollsters for not properly weighing the data. It's going to be crazy if some pollsters will change the method. Well, now they don't really have an excuse, and that's what is going to be really fascinating over the next 6 months to a year to see if any of them do it. Because if they don't, now, if David Coletto wanted to write another article later on, he can be like, we put this out there, we put the analysis out there, nobody contacted us, nobody's changed, what's going on, folks? Now a different conversation can happen down there. Alberta Freedom for $5. The Constitution has recognized unwritten laws, like the government is formed by a democratic process, even though it is not directly stated. True. Very, very valid point, Alberta Freedom. And there are unwritten laws and unwritten conventions that were actually brought up during proration, and that seemed to be recognized by the judge that was overseeing it. So excellent point. My partner has introduced me to your channel. I won't lie, used to be a Liberal supporter, but now part of the MP Nation. Thank you. Also, my partner has said it's not elbows up, more like face down, backside up. That's Mary Miller for $20. Thank you very, very much, Mary. You know what? I will demonize no person who cast a vote for a different party in previous elections, because, as I say, a Liberal voter, or an NDP voter for that matter, is a potential Conservative voter. I voted Liberal once in the past as well. Many people voted for Liberal in the past who now vote Conservative. So don't worry about that at all. You are welcome in NP Nation. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you. Your partner, very wise person. And Patch Juris for $14. Hearing a lot of he can't or shouldn't do that, but Carney is an evil man, so he will. Also, daily reminder, Muslim values are Canadian values, so might as well convert. Kidding, don't. So there's, I understand the sentiment, you know, he can or shouldn't, but Carney's an evil man, so he will. He can't if he's actually unable to. And there's a lot of things that he's actually unable to. Like Carney by himself cannot do things. There's pieces in place that prevent him from doing so. And if he does, if he says, "Oh, well, I'm going to do that," well, you know, that's a different legal problem for him now. And then we'll see how much courage there is between law enforcement to charge a sitting prime minister. So there's a lot of things that he is literally unable to do, and I'm very confident in him being unable to do those. So so there's a lot of crazy blackpilling going on over there out in social media land. A lot of it is uninformed. So we have Jim Volk, member for 29 months. Hey, Ryan, this popped up in my feed. Christine Frechette is the new Quebec premier. Can you or the Quebecois chime in? Yeah, I saw that from Pierre the other day, or today. So, what ended up happening, is the former Coalition Avenir Quebec economy minister won the vote to replace the only leader the party has ever had, Francois Legault. She would become the 33rd premier in the province and the second woman to hold the post. Frechette ran against former Education and Environment Minister Bernard Drainville and won 57.9% of the vote. So that is why she's the new Premier of Quebec. There you go. We have Myron Ends for $10. None of the floor crossers cared about their riding. They literally took democracy and crushed it. Yeah, they showed probably the largest amount of disrespect as they possibly could in their position for democracy as MP. And I think it's gross. I really, really do. And some people have asked, oh, well, you know, not anybody here, but on social media, they've asked, so what do you think of the fact that Conservatives welcomed people into their party before and floor crossing? And I said, I disagree with it. Wasn't following politics at the time. But when Francesca Sorbera was rumored to be asking the Conservatives to cross, not like the Conservatives were offering to him, but he was asking to cross to the Conservatives under Justin Trudeau's government. And when that came up, we said, please don't. That's ridiculous. He needs to stay where he is. That's where he was elected. That's where he needs to stay. And the Conservatives said, no, thank you very much. And they refused it, which I think was very wise. So just because there was previous leaders of previous parties that did certain things doesn't mean that we agree with everything that they've done. As we said, we don't agree with every single part of the Conservative platform, but we agree with enough to say we're behind it. We have -1-2 for $5. Canadians are too docile anywhere else in the world. This power grab would have resulted in riots in the streets in Canada. Blame the opposition at WTF. I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but I do take your point. Canadians, as Pierre said, and I think this encapsulates Canadians well, Canadians aren't revolutionists, we're evolutionists. We'll eventually get there. Question is how much damage is going to be done until we get there. Jessica Van Luke for $7. Tomorrow, could we do a Canadian political Kahoot quiz on tomorrow's live? I can make it and send it to you. We can do it as we wait for the results. I don't know what you mean. Kahoot quiz. I'm usually not starved for content, but I'm willing to see what your idea is, Jessica. So you can send it in an email. There's usually lots to talk about on these streams, but I might be able to get like a question or two in if you want to send it to me, and I'll take a look. Woofers SS for $20. What did you think of some of the quotes coming out of the LPC convention, like Carney's "Unity is not uniformity"? For me, it was I just view everything that came out of the Liberal convention is slightly above the NDP convention. And these quotes that are coming out of it it sounds like just another catalyze type of buzzword that he's trying to use. He's trying to sound informative, and he's trying to sound intelligent, and he's trying to sound profound. This is where Carney's ego is just expanding like a black hole. And I think it's going to get him into trouble. We have Waniska for $5. Thank you very much. Carney's Liberal government is doing a great green land grab by taking... Oh, that! 30% of Canada. You can Google that great green land grab. Yeah. So I noticed that, and they're going to get a lot of pushback. Now, a lot of it is already quote-unquote government land. They're like designated it as 30%, but they're gonna have some problems with that. I don't know why they're choosing to do this. This is starting an unnecessary controversy. But I wish, just keep doing it. Keep doing it. See what happens, because it's not going to go well. So, all right, folks, it is 11:15, and we've had a long day, long weekend. not a long weekend, but a long weekend. And it's going to be a long day tomorrow because we have tomorrow's content. We have the by-election results. I don't think it's going to be a great day for all of us tomorrow, but hopefully we get a surprise in Terrebonne. That would be nice. But it is it's going to be okay, folks. It's going to be okay. It's only a matter of time. Canada and Conservatives will prevail. That I will promise you. And we will be there to make sure that we're informing you and that we'll be there every step of the way. We have Pat Little for $10. Thank you very much. It was wonderful hanging out with everybody tonight. Look forward to next Sunday when Tanya is back. And we will have lots of content coming in the coming week as we are back in the house and things are about to heat up, I think. Don't have any inside scoop, just some intuition. But stay tuned for the live stream tomorrow night as we bring you all of the results. And I would say we'll see you in the comments, but we will see you tomorrow night. Real Steven Jensen for $5 right at the end here. Provinces can override Land Resource Transfer Act 1930. Yeah, that's why they're going to have some problems. And Myron is dropping another 5 memberships. Thank you very much. Folks, it's been a slice. Thank you so much. And we will see you tomorrow.
Our fathers fought so our voices could be free, that thought and conscience would not bow to decree those rights and only if we choose to take a stand without compromising truth. This land is more than headlines, more than noise and rage. We cut through all the chaos line by line. Country stands alone. What we ignore still shapes the road back home. Power grows when people step aside. We move forward and be nationwide. From the coastline to the prairies, mountain shadow, harbor rain. We carry all these stories, turn the fear into a flame. Raise your voice tonight. Every province, every distant sky. We stand for something. We don't step aside. Truth in our hands, hope in our eyes. NP Nation, this is where we We've been bruised, but we're breathing. Yeah, the work cuts deep. Still we answer every morning for the true north, strong and free. Canada, you're worth the struggle. Every question, every call. We're exhausted, but we're upright. We refuse to watch you fall. NP Nation, raise your voice tonight. Every province, every distant sky. We stand for something. We don't step aside. Truth in our hands, hope in our eyes. NP Nation, this is where we Freedom thrives when truth is on our side. When we resist despair and the power that divides. So we step